weeks ago, our friend Mark Thompson made a posting on Facebook. It's called Other Scales. It says, here are some exotic scales that may be used in jazz improvisation. Well, I like exotic scales. They tend to creep their way into my music every so often. So I figured I'd talk about it a little bit. There are lots of different ways you can approach dealing with a new scale or new exotic scale. There are lots of ways, but this is one, and hopefully you'll get some ideas out of it. So if I decide I'm going to work on a little bit on some exotic scales, I'll usually grab a list. I've got a few in my books, or I'll go online and find a list of scales, and I'll start playing through. Just start at the top, or pick randomly anything and just start playing and see if anything catches my ears. I was playing through earlier, and the double harmonic scale sort of caught my attention. It has a C, D flat, E, F, G, very Phrygian dominant at that point, A flat, but now we've got a B, C, and then you continue. It's kind of a neat sound to it. It's very sort of harmonic minor-ish, but another little twist to it. So what I would do with that is I would play around with it and maybe come up with a fingering and just noodle around and get used to the sound and see if there's anything I like about it. And then I would go about mapping it over the fretboard, generating modes or other fingerings that cover the whole fretboard. Now I would do that as either if I sit there and just work them out, or a real cool way to do it is to take a piece of paper and draw your neck out and just fill them in. Put in all the notes that belong to the scale and color them in, and then sit and look at it and see if you can find any neat pathways, paths of least resistance or what have you, to create neat fingerings. Look for any cool geometric structures that might be inside the scale. This one I was playing a little bit earlier, and it has kind of a neat sort of thing going on here with the G, A flat, B, C, you got C here, D flat, E, F. Sort of an augmented second sandwich in between these two little semitone shapes. So there's some neat stuff that you can find if you map it out on paper and you look for little designs in it, and then you can chop it up into modes and make more bite-sized bits that you can play around with. So then what you wind up with is a set of fingerings of this scale, and what a lot of players will do is they'll match these up with chords. Say the first chord from the scale. So in this case, it would be a C major 7. You have C, E, G, and B. So this scale will work. Typically, I might play maybe a Lydian mode or something over that. In this case, try this scale. It's got a nice sound. So now we want to explore it a little bit more to maybe flavor up our compositions a little bit. So a good way to explore a scale is to look at its chord content. Now, a lot of these are exotic scales, and not all of them break up so nicely into the thirds, the tertian system that we're pretty much used to. You can get a scale like the Iwato's scale, which has a B, C, E, F, A, B. You know, it's not so much in terms of triads in that. You might be able to use it over a C major 7 chord. It's a neat sound. But so, you know, standard harmony is not always going to work, but that's kind of the joy of this. You look at scales, you might get new ideas. You might say, oh, this scale is better geared towards intervals of fourths, so maybe I'll play a lot of interesting chords based on fourths and make the most of the scale that way. Or you might find that there's no chords that work at all except for cluster chords, or you might find just droning on the main root note or any of the mode notes, and then playing the shapes around it might give you some neat sounds too. But if you can draw some chords out of it, you should try. So what I did here was the double harmonic scale. I was playing around with it. It's also the same as the Byzantine scale. And its notes are C, D flat, E, F, G, A flat, B, and C. So you could dig in a little bit, but upon first glance, a few of the chords that I could see coming out of here is you know, C major 7, C sus4 is in there, C, F, and G. You've got D flat, F, and A flat, so you have D flat major, and you have the option of putting in a sharp 11 for that nice sound. note off the E note, E, G, B, E minor. Nice color in there. And then F minor, F, F, A flat, C, F. You could throw a B in there, sharp 11, sharp 7. G, you've got a G, B, and a D flat, and an F, so you've got a G7, flat 9, flat 5, sorry, and flat 9 if you want. There's an A flat in there. Then you've got an A flat augmented chord as well in there, A flat, C, E. So there's some interesting tensions inside that particular scale. So, you know, usually when I'm looking at these scales, I'll try and see if I can pull any chords out of it and give myself a little bit of a chord pool to play with. And then voicing has a lot to do with it. You can noodle around with that. So now you've got this collection of chords to play with. You know, if you really want to assimilate different ethnic styles, you kind of really have to get into the rhythms, and you know, some of these scales also don't even base themselves on semitones. There's a lot of quarter tone stuff, like Lenger demonstrates on his fretless guitar with that wonderful stuff. He's just playing all the in-between notes. It's amazing. But in the meantime, you can play around with this list and come up with some chord progressions, and just try and increase your vocabulary. Just draw chords from these scales. Try and be creative, and remember that if a scale seems like a major scale or a minor scale, but it's got a couple notes different, well, those are the notes that really set it off. So try and find ways to milk those notes a little bit more, and have fun. So I'm going to go off and write a little jam here using some of these chords I just pulled out of this scale, and then I'll just sort of fade off with a little jam session.